Morning. There's a sleeping kitty for you. He's totally sacked out. We're not here to talk about kitties, though. Hey, Mom, there's Juna. I put a little blankie on him because he was cold. I just had to cover him with a little blanket. And what's so cute is he let me cover him with a blanket. Don't look at the garbage behind him. Good morning. We're not here to talk about Juna and his blanket, though. Good morning, good morning. He's so cute. He gets really cold. He's little. He also is FIV positive, I'm sure. And he gets cold and he lets me cover him with blankets. It's adorable. He's a cutie. Can you guys hear me okay? I feel like I'm really far away from the camera. I had a hard time getting going this morning. I'm super tired. I think today is going to be a lay in bed and read fantasy fiction, sci-fi fantasy fiction today, which I really like. Okay, good. I'm not going to worry about it then. Today's our Tao Te Ching Day, and my name's Michelle Wolf. You can find me at caddyshackdesigns.com. Tanya, I have your daughter's book packaged up for her, and I'll throw it in the mail tomorrow. At the website, you can find everything that I do. There's little tabs across the top. I posted a recording in the Facebook group, interview with Tosha Silver. That's so good, I listened to it twice. I've loved her books. I found Outrageous Openness when it first came out. What? You haven't missed a thing. I'm just chit-chatting. I haven't got down to the meat of it yet. But if you're not on Facebook, you can find this recording by just go to Google, go to Uncle Google. Oh, good. And enter Annika Martins, ANNIKA, Annika Martins, MARTINS. I do too, I love her. And Tosha Silver, TOSHA Silver, common spelling. And you want to listen to podcast number 11. Oh, I listened to it twice too. Really good. It's really good. It's where we're heading. Like, when I think to myself, I don't really know anyone who's totally living without, totally living with the impulse, an impulse-driven life, a divine impulse-driven life. And she is, and has been for a really long time. So I like listening to her to get an idea of where I'm heading. Because I am heading there. That's all I want. And so I just find her very comforting. That the more I let go, the better and easier it's going to get. I mean, it's already getting easier. The things are just clicking along, getting easier. Several things that I was worried about having to pay all of a sudden took care of themselves. It's not that they didn't randomly get paid by some inheritance, but they got delayed or had, another way to pay them showed up. And so just that my one intense Thursday letting go process, I mean, that's how it happens, right? When you get squeezed to the point where your head's going to explode and you turn around and face it, things tend to resolve themselves pretty quickly. I've seen it happen in my life, in my clients' lives. I've seen it happen plenty. When you finally get it and you finally turn around, things either go away, or they get taken care of, or they don't bother you anymore and you're able to handle them differently. So it was all of that. Some things got taken care of. My student loans, they finally got my income contingent repayment plan done, so I have no payments for 2016. at all. I mean, I can pay whatever I can pay. I don't have a required payment. So that was like a little miracle because that's taking forever. And so that's like a huge burden off. And then, my insurance payment I was able to rearrange some things once I could think clearly. I was like, oh, I can pop that over there and do this and that. And then that's covered. So bada bing, bada boom, no problem. Yay! And I'm not upset and losing sleep over anything, so that's good. So miracles in my perception, you just got squeezed to the point where it had to change. Oh, see, that desire map stuff's powerful stuff. It's really powerful stuff. I think being soaked in it for 5 full weeks helps. Like you're kind of in class for 5 full weeks, and it creates an intensity that you don't get studying by yourself. Oh, it just got great. Look at your little hearts. Oh, I love it. Okay, let's talk about this doubt. Oh, the reason I brought that up, when you let go of trying to control it. Okay, so that's why, where I originally in my head was bringing this up for a reason, is I believe that is living the way that we keep talking about. I was about to start with the wrong book. That is it. You see it differently. You view things differently. Your eyes change. Your vision changes. And it allows everything that how I say we tell stories, and every story we tell, every word in that story is a rope that we wrap around ourselves. The more we let go of that storytelling rope, it just drops away. I had an experience recently in these several experiences. You're so welcome, Tanya. We're happy for you. We know you love your husband a lot. Where I felt like chains were just dropping off. Like click, click, click. Have fun. Volleyball, right? Have fun. I got your mala on today. Whoops, where is it? It's hiding here. Throughout time, like an infinity mirror. Like they just click, 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 and then you could just almost hear them dropping on the ground. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool experience. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. So, that's what it's like. The more you focus on doing the laundry when the laundry needs doing, and not storytelling about all the other things going on, and not driving yourself off the metaphorical cliff, and getting centered, then you know what to do next. You'll know what to do about issues that are of a concern to you. If there's something for you to do, you'll know. So, today's chapter is 16, and in this book, your puppy will open your heart in ways that you could never imagine. Because you've never had a puppy, or have you ever had a dog at all? Dogs are God on 4 legs. A dog will break your heart open in the most wonderful, wonderful way, especially those labs and retrievers. Excuse me while I readjust my bulk. It's different when you're an adult. It's different when you're the one responsible for it. Oh God, they're so awesome. Dogs are great. They really are. Cats are great in similar and different ways. So, this is our book. Absolutely. Dogs are little angels. Even when they're eating all your shoes, they're little angels. They're little shoe-eating machines for a while. So returning to the root. Returning to the root. I even like the title. Dogs are awesome. Be completely empty. Be perfectly serene. The 10,000 things arise together. In their arising is their return. Now they flower, and flowering sink homeward, returning to the root. when he's trying to bite your face. The return to the root is peace. Peace to accept what must be, to know what endures. In that knowledge is wisdom, and without it, ruin, disorder. To know what endures is to be open-hearted, magnanimous, regal, blessed, following the Tao, the way that endures forever. The body comes to its ending, but there is nothing to fear. So her notes say, to those who will not admit morality without a deity to validate it, or spirituality of which man is not the measure, the firmness of Lao Tzu's morality and the sweetness of his spiritual counsel must seem incomprehensible or illegitimate or very troubling indeed. So if we think that we have to have, thank you for the shares and the hearts, guys. If we think we have to have a god or a deity, any kind of deity or deities, to make our beliefs legit, we're in trouble. Because there isn't one. There's the wholeness, there's the void, there's the way, there's the way which is living with the void, and all that uncertainty. And when we don't have any confidence in that, it can be a really insecure, wobbly kind of shifting sand feeling. When we don't really need to worry about shifting sand. We just need to worry about learning how to surf. Because we have waves of change all the time. And rather than trying to fight against them and struggle in the water, we can just learn how to surf. Then we navigate all these ups and downs and changes a lot more effectively. And we come to solutions a lot more easily. And when I was in social work, my undergrad degree is in social work with a minor in sociology and criminal justice. So we were taught that in a systems perspective. So we were always taught to look at the whole. And it really helped me grow a lot to look at the whole picture and how parts of systems work together. Sometimes when we fight to maintain a system that's obviously broken, we just perpetuate it. Sometimes systems have to fall apart to be able to be put back together in a healthy way. And sometimes that includes the body. Sometimes people have to come very close to death before they kind of let everything go and put all the pieces back together in a different way. Hopefully a healthier way. A more effective way. So when we see all these things with our politicians and gun control and stuff like that, and I've spent daily time praying on that subject. And I said what I wanted to say last night on Facebook, and until I feel something else to do, that's all I'll do. I felt that impulse to forward something, and I did, and I'm still waiting, and if there's more for me to do, I'll do it. But sometimes you just have to stand back and let a system self-destruct and hope that there isn't too much collateral damage. And that may not be what's happening, but it kind of has that feeling, like something needs to fall apart so that it can be put back together. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's the sense I have of it. Just like in our personal lives, when issues become amplified right before we let go and find a different way, it really feels like these issues are being amplified. And my hope is that we are reaching that point where it will get so loud that we can step back. Yes, perfect, and have a paradigm shift. Yeah, perfect way to put it. I do believe we are experiencing a paradigm shift, and the confusing part is that we're aware of it as it's happening instead of after it's happened. So when you're a sensitive, like intuitive type person, you're aware of these shiftings and energy changes, and you feel the difference in the air before it's actually happened in the physical world. So where most people wake up after it's happened and say, oh, it used to be this way, now it's this way. I don't really remember when that happened, but we do. And so the important part is to stay very centered so that we know what to do and when to do it, whatever is appropriate for us individually at the time. So I don't have to go out and find something to do. I do need to make a decision who to vote for in the next year. But I don't have to do anything right now until I feel the impulse to do. Inspired action? Yeah. I want to wait for inspired action because I don't want to waste my time. I'm kind of lazy. I want to be efficient. Yes, all similar messages from seemingly unrelated people. When you're cruising around on Facebook and Periscope, we are all suddenly saying the same things. Not suddenly, in this year. Saying these same things. Coming up with the same books. Suddenly we're all remembering, like Michelle remembered, hey, I've got that book, Divine Law of Compensation. I was like, oh, I've got that book. And then I've had these Toaster Silver books, and then they're showing up elsewhere. I love it. It's the collective unconscious picking up on each other better, maybe, and spreading the same word. Let go. Return to the root. The return to the root is peace. Rapidly. Yes. I do. It's like immersion camp for language, People go to, and I'd love to do one. You go to another country and you go through immersion for a couple of months and you have to speak the language and that's all you speak for 2 months. I would love to do that. That'd be so fun. It'd be challenging, but it'd be really fun. But it's kind of like that. Like the messages are coming fast and furious so that we don't fall asleep in between. Like we were talking about contractions. Like if we fall asleep in between, then it's painful. It's painful. That we have to stay awake and face the pain of it. So that we know. So we see the ebbs and flows and we know what to do when it peaks. So let's see what the Stephen Mitchell translation says about that. Hello, whoever just popped in. I saw a color but not a name. Hello to you. I get that and my brain hurts. Yeah. I'm kind of having a brain hurt kind of day. Like, kind of need to go just lay around and read some fantasy fiction. Right now I'm reading Crown of Embers by Rae Carlson, R-A-E Carlson. She's a great writer. Fantasy fiction stuff, like sci-fi. Which chapter are we on? 16, right? Yes. Okay. Hi, Allie. Hello to you. This is our second translation. Stephen Mitchell's Tao Te Ching. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. And she says returning to the root is peace. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. That's nice. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you, and when death comes, you're ready. Empty your mind of all thoughts, let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. We all will go back to where we came from. But we don't have to wait until death to return to that state of mind. We can have that here while we're still alive. We don't have to get a terminal diagnosis to let it all go. We don't have to have, hi, is it Babs? We don't have to have the rug snatched out from under us to let go. We can say, I'm going to let go now. And I'm going to ride the waves and I'm going to see how it goes. Hi. Returning to the source of serenity. If you don't realize the source, yes, release. We can do it now. We can drop it all now. You stumble in confusion and sorrow. So when it says if you don't realize the source, if you don't realize there is a source, and you don't know how to connect to it and stay connected and reconnect when you fall asleep and you need to wake up again, you just stumble around in confusion and sorrow. And we see that all the time. We're living in a country right now that's very confused and drowning in sorrow. Not 100%, but you know what I mean. It's like the prevailing tone is people are scared, confused and sorrowful. When you realize where you come from, when you stay connected to source, you don't have to try to be tolerant. You naturally become tolerant. You naturally become disinterested in the drama, I believe. You naturally become amused at what we're trying to do in our toddler way. We naturally become kind-hearted as a grandmother and dignified as a king. We don't stoop to name-calling and finger-pointing and blame-finding. We keep our dignity, state our position, and let it be. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. Problems don't stop coming. Cars don't stop breaking. Jobs don't stop disappearing, but you handle them differently. That is very hard for people who are in treatment and recovery. They feel like, I'm getting better and now my life is falling apart. Your life was always falling apart. Lives fall apart. Shit happens. It really, really does. It's just you handle it differently. You don't turn to food or too much internet or too much alcohol or whatever to blunt your awareness. You face things head on more and more and more. So it looks like it's getting harder, but it's actually getting easier. You just have to ride it out long enough. When death comes, you are ready. I don't particularly want to die anytime soon, but if death came, I'd be ready. I've done a lot. I haven't done everything I want to do. But I wouldn't be regretful. Chapter 16 in this book, 1,000 Names for Joy. While I'm reading this, I haven't read the preface to these things. The 10,000 things that this book refers to a lot. What is that exactly? What are the 10,000 things? I know I can look that up myself, but again, I'm feeling a little lazy today. What does he mean when he says the 10,000 things? If anybody knows. Because I don't know. I kind of have a sense of it, but I don't know exactly. Here's some elk totem power to you. Okay, chapter 16. You can't empty your mind of thoughts. You might as well try to empty the ocean of its water. Oh, okay, so that is the Tao, the 10,000 things. You're clueless, me too. Oh, you don't have to, Tanya. So sweet. You might as well try to empty the ocean of its water. Thoughts just keep coming back, it seems. That's the way of it. And that's true. When I've taught meditation to people, it's like you cannot get rid of thoughts. You can change your awareness of them, but they don't go away. They don't disappear. Thoughts aren't a problem if they're met with understanding. That is so true. If you understand what they are, you don't worry about what they're saying. Why would you even want to empty your mind unless you're at war with reality? Yeah, it's just what it does. It's what it does. It's like asking a dog to stop barking. They bark. That's what they do. You can quiet them down, but they're not going to stop. Dogs and thoughts. If I were to have a stressful thought, I know how to question it and give myself peace. We give it to ourselves. Even the most stressful thought could come along and I would just be amused. You can have 10,000 thoughts a minute, and if you don't believe them, your heart remains at peace. So you don't grab on and start spinning a tale around a thought. I can't believe she said that to me. And then you grab it and start spinning a story, and then you pull in the past, and then you imagine the future, and before you know it, you're a mess. When you have the thought, I can't believe she said that to me, you just laugh at it. Well, she did. She did say it. So off you go. What's your next thought? The original stressful thought is the thought of an I. Well, I'm glad you stopped in. It was nice to meet you, Allie. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good sleep. You're as bad as the rest of us, apparently, about jumping on your phone in the middle of the night. We all do it. Glad to have met you. Okay, the thought of an I, the concept of an I versus me. We'll follow you back. We all will. I say that. I'm just going to follow you right now so I don't forget. Okay, I gotcha. Before the thought of an I and a you, a me and a you, there was peace. A thought is born out of nothing and instantly goes back to where it came from. If you look before, between, and after your thoughts, you'll see there's only a vast openness. That's the space of don't know. That's where I believe your curiosity is, in that don't know mind. That's a Zen Buddhist term, don't know mind, beginner's mind, sometimes it's called. It's who we really are. It's the source of everything. It contains everything. Life, death, beginning, middle, and end. I was thinking the other day, I do a lot of thinking. Probably too much thinking. But I was thinking when we were having the floods that the way we try and pick this stuff apart is like trying to pick apart pick a peck of pickled peppers. Thank you, love, back to you. It's trying to pick apart the pieces of the river. There's the surface of the river. There's the rocks in the river. I was thinking about this in relationship to guides and angels and the things that we call different strands of energy. There's the fast-running surface whitewater on the river, and then there's those still pockets around the rocks. So there's white water going over the rocks, but at the base of the rock there's a little pocket that's really pretty still. It doesn't really move a whole lot. And then when the river goes off, into those bays or, small little cutouts. I don't know, Michelle. It might be a terrifying place to be. There's still spots. So I feel like when we are taking the whole, everything that exists, thank you, Tanya. The 10,000 things is everything that exists. It's such a great, so let me go off on a tangent here because I love playing the tangent game. We have the whole source, the whole of everything that is, all that is, the 10,000 things. I love that. We want to pick it apart and label it. This is the angel wave. This is the guide's ripple. This is the rocks of whatever. This is the ego part. This is the spiritual part. This is the higher self part. But it's all a river. It's all a river. It just depends on which part of the river you're focusing on. So I can focus on the white water that's swooshing around at the top, or I can focus on the deep part of the river that's very still, or I can focus on the wave that's carrying the stick, or I can focus on the stick, but it's all the river. So don't get too confused or bogged down in trying to determine which part of the river you're immersed in, which part of the river you're connected to. It's still all the river. It's super fun. It's super fun to experience this wave versus the bottom of the river, versus the stick on the river, versus the white water on the river. Experiment with the differences, but understand it's all one. It's all the same river. Does that make sense? I was looking for a metaphor. I was on a metaphor hunt, or an analogy hunt, whatever. Let's see, where was I? Until we know, we're drops in the water thinking we're separate. Well, what I've seen in myself and others is trying to, well, which energy am I focused on? Is this an angel, or is this a guide, or is this a power animal, or is this my higher self? It doesn't matter. It's all the river. So put whatever word on it you need to put on it, but understand that that word is in and of itself reductionist. It's reducing a whole into a strand, if that makes sense. Like, there's streams and tributaries, but always keep the understanding that those streams and tributaries still come back to the same river. They're still part of the same river. Or if you want to go even further, parts of the same ocean, because all rivers go to the ocean. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I see sometimes some people, and I have done this to myself too, get confused in trying to, because that's what our mind does, right? It wants neat categories. This is an angel. This is my higher self. This is my guide. This is my elk power animal. This is my polar bear power animal. It's not. It's a different feeling, and it serves different purposes. But you probably feel them. Actually, sometimes I think being a visual person is a little bit of a curse. Like, I observe my husband, who's a feeling person, a knowing, and a kinesthetic person, and sometimes I think he has an easier time getting through life. He would say, if he believed these things, which he doesn't, that it's just all one thing. Yeah. Some people get caught up, there's subtle differences, and they get caught up in wanting to make those discrete and separate categories, and they're really not. It's like different flavors of ice cream. It's all ice cream. So it doesn't really matter. Don't get, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that's kind of an ego trap, and you can get caught up in analysis, which keeps you in your mind, rather than a feeling person, or a kinesthetic, non-visual person who's going to go straight to that awareness of the source. Yeah. It creates room for argument. Let's say that. Hold on, I'm sliding out of my chair. This chair's actually too big, and you kind of start to slide out of it after a while. It creates room for argument. If I say, I like chocolate ice cream, you like vanilla, therefore you're wrong, and we should all like chocolate. It's all ice cream. It's all source. It's all the river. So I don't need to argue with people. It could be easier. I believe that's true. I think the thinker people, the mind people, and I'm so guilty of it myself, we can get caught up in our thinking, our thoughts, and wanting to put things in little boxes and categories, and it can be really, it's just a tricky, subtle way to stay stuck in your head. If you keep going that direction, Tanya, you will. You will. That's a skill like any other. It can be developed. But also recognize that you may have an advantage over the people who see too much in their heads. We forget that we're all Americans, whether we're packing heat or not. We're all Americans, whether we're Democrats or Republicans. Trying to ferret out, what are you? When people meet each other, they try to ferret out the categories, because you want to get the new person categorized in your head. So don't get caught up in, when you're learning to listen to what feels like a guide or a power animal or whatever in your head, understand it's all one thing. It's just different flavors of the same thing. Because different minds process information differently. We learn differently. Just like Tanya doesn't see a whole lot, I feel a whole lot. And I'm learning to see in my head. I didn't always see very well in my head. I don't really know what the point is I'm trying to make, but maybe it'll come to me. Until we know that death is as good as life, and death always comes at just the right time, we're going to take on the role of God without the awareness of it, and it's always going to hurt. It's not our role to be God. Yeah, ways of separating ourselves. I guess I just want to encourage people, don't worry about categorizing things as you're learning. Just understand it's all one thing. And play. Play with it. Play with oracle cards. Play with different meditation styles. But understand it's always going to come back to love with a capital L. Because that's all it is. Whenever you mentally oppose what is, you're going to experience sadness and apparent separation. There's no sadness without a story. What is, and you are it. I have a friend who, after doing inquiry sincerely for a number of years, came to the understanding that the world is a reflection of mind. She was married to a man who was the love of her life, and one day while they were sitting on their couch, he had a heart attack and literally died in her arms. After the first shock and tears, she began looking for grief, but there was none. For weeks she kept looking for grief because her friends told her that grief was a necessary part of the healing process, but all she felt was a completeness, that there was nothing of him that she'd had while he was physically with her that she didn't have now. She told me that every time a sad thought about him appeared, she would immediately ask, "Is it true?" and immediately see the turnaround, which washed away the sadness and replaced it with what was truer. So she would think, he was my best friend, I don't have anyone to talk to now. Became, I am my best friend and I have me to talk to now. I'll miss his wisdom became, I don't miss his wisdom. There was no way she could miss it because she was that wisdom. She is the wisdom. Everything she thought she'd had in him, she could also find in herself. There was no difference. And because he turned out to be her, he couldn't die. Without the story of life and death, there was just love. He will always be with her. Now on that, our bodies get attached to other bodies. So that's not to say that if you do grieve, you're wrong. Don't take it that way. But it's that everything we have is still there because oh, did she? That it's no different? That's interesting. There's no sadness without a story. So it's the stories we tell ourselves, I'll never see them again, that makes us feel terrible. And it's not even true. But it feels true. And moments of sadness, but not a lot of grief, yeah. In our physical bodies, mourn the loss of the other, the connection, the physical connection to a body. That's pretty cool. I've gotten in trouble for not... Oh, yeah. Well, I knew it. Tanya and I still didn't handle my dad's death very well. Things can get complicated. Still. Okay. Where did that come from? Surprise! Shit. So, there you go. So, what that tells you, and me, that there's still story there. That's it in action. Death is a tough one. Sorry, I rubbed that paper and then I noticed on the replay it comes through really loud. You can hear that, right? Sounds like sandpaper. Shoo! Woo! Hello, Sunday morning. Goodness. That's what it looks like, guys. That's what it looks like. Your story jumps up and grabs you and goes, hey, I'm still here. You still have a story here. Right. Well, and my understanding is that his parenting wasn't that great in the beginning. When he was still an alcoholic. He was a pretty bad alcoholic. No, we sure didn't. So, the good thing about him is that he was able to take responsibility for it and change it. And it's nice that he was so open about it. You know, he's like, I fucked up. I was a terrible person for a number of years. Even when he was writing his first books, he was in the midst of his own alcoholism. Which is an admirable thing. And says, you don't have to already be there to start teaching others. Yeah. He changed the story for sure. For sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for your support in my mini outburst. So it's just a process, right? It's just a process of little at a time. Whew. So, I'll probably need to write some of that down at some point. Probably not today. Today I'm letting myself take a break. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, gals. Y'all. Y'all is a nice non-specific gender. Yeah. What did, I'm not going to think about that today. I'll think about that tomorrow. Scarlett O'Hara. Sufficient unto the day is the burdens or whatever. Like, there's enough to deal with today without adding more onto it. And today, my choice is to not deal with any of it. Today is a day off of non-spiritual reading, just fantasy, just mindless. Excuse me. And keeping the cats separated so they don't fight, and snuggling the ones that get cold. Good point. You know, what may have done this is I've been slapping my rose and white angelica frankincense and sandalwood blend on pretty heavily the last couple of days. So that may be bringing some stuff up. Rose oil. Jesus. So expensive and so worth it. It's cheaper than cocaine. Brain candy books, yeah. Just pure imagination stuff. Rose oil, it takes like, I want to say like 1 billion tons of roses to make this one little bottle of oil. Its wholesale price is $185. That makes it about $1.50 or $2 a drop. And it's worth it because normally, and I didn't buy the first bottle. Actually, I don't think I bought any of them. But my mom was like, I love rose quartz too. My mom was going on about it, and I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? $185 for 5 milliliters of oil? But then I got it, and it was like, oh, I see. I get it. So I used rose and white angelica. Yes, God, they're beautiful. They're so beautiful, those mini malas. Rose and white angelica together for Ashlyn, who'd gotten suspicious and hypervigilant because physical therapy was traumatic for her. And she took about, I want to say, 4 times of putting that blend on her twice a week. And she's back to her open baby face self. Like you look at her and she smiles. I don't know how she knows to smile and then turn her face away like a little flirt. She was born with that. So that was that sold me on it too. And then I noticed that for myself, I put a drop on my Simply Love Mala Maru bead, and then I've mixed that blend up, and I've been putting that on. And every time I do, and like my mom just said, it's a shifty oil. It's a shifty oil. It's a worthwhile investment. Yeah. Does she still? She's your introvert kid, though, isn't she? She may still be super sensitive. She's probably really intuitive and empathic. She's your cat kid, right, Sky? So, yeah, I think the non-wholesale price is like $225 or $240 or something. It's in some of the. It's in White Angelica too. Sterling is too. That's cool. I kind of look at those oils as I would pay that for a doctor's visit. I would pay that $185 would be 2 therapy sessions. I don't want to go to therapy and I don't want to go to the doctor. So what I found when I started digging into these essential oils is they were impacting me emotionally. That's funny. Maybe she's just not ready yet. It's all about perspective, right? I was like, we took my husband to the doctor, and because the deductible wasn't taken care of, it was $500. $300 just for the office visit. Yeah. So when I look at it that way, rose oil's a bargain. It was $185 is like a third of a doctor visit. Obviously, I'm going to go to the doctor if I need to go, but a lot of physical stuff clears up when you clear up the emotional stuff. So I found that I was emotionally shifting when I was using these oils, and I was like, wait a minute. And that's when I really started looking at them from the emotional perspective more so than the physical. They work on the physical, but they shift you emotionally, which is what Gary Young, the founder, talks about, but he kind of talks about it in such a wackadoodle way that he's kind of hard to listen to. You're kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about, Gary? You're not making any sense. But he intuitively knows, and he talks about he chooses the oils and the oil blends based on what he says is his connection to God. He just says it in kind of a weird way. But he's a creative genius too, and sometimes creative geniuses don't make a lot of sense. the bottom line for me is they work. Gary Young, he's the founder of Young Living Oils. He's kind of a weirdo. But what I see is at the end of the day, the bottom line is they work for me. So I don't really care if he's a weirdo. What he's doing is working. Yeah. What he's doing is working. It's helping me. It's helping my grandbabies. So that's all I care about. And I did find out that Morgan and Sarah are diffusing the Joy Blend plus lemon in their diffuser a lot. So that has rose in it too. The Joy Blend does. So that can only help them too, whether they realize it or not. They're burning it. Yeah. They're diffusing it for the smell, but it's working on them anyway. Little do they know. Gigi's got an agenda. Not really. Okay. Well, that's all I have for today. I'm sliding out of my chair again. Do you see this? I just get lower and lower. My evil plan. My evil plan to heal your heart. Yeah, I need a break today. Gossip Girls. Morgan likes that series Gilmore Girls. And every time they release another season, she just is all over it. I like Orange is the New Black. But we won't get another season of that. But we've been binging on old Malcolm in the Middle reruns on Netflix. We love Netflix. So I'll probably watch Malcolm in the Middle and go finish reading my book. Yeah. There's all kinds of... I love Netflix for that because you can just binge on them and watch. You can tune out for a whole weekend and just watch TV. It's good to take breaks for integration, right? So I just went through a big blowout on Thursday night. All day Thursday night, part of Friday. So then there's the resting part, the integrating the new, healing from what just left. And rest is a big part of that. I still do my practices. It's still important to me to do my daily practice. But then the rest of the day, I will be mindlessly resting. So, thanks for support and hearts and shares and being present. So appreciated. So appreciated. Me too. Thank you. Thank goodness. Me too. I'm stubborn. So sometimes it takes a while for things to get through. So, I will talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. Yes, so grateful that you have a puppy. You'll be doing a final one. I'm sure there's still more tears. So, just do whatever comes up to do. Ride that wave. Let that wave come in and let it roll right back out again. Hello, Jazz Poet. We're just wrapping up, unfortunately. And thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow before noon. Tomorrow's Monday, so I'll talk about an oil too sometime tomorrow. All right. Bye. Okay, great.